Bloodstained Child is a band that I feel doesn't get enough appreciation. Known mostly for their work in the trance metal genre, they're definitely my favourite band in that particular subgenre of metal, and I think they've done some incredible music over the years. Something I find quite interesting about the band is how they've changed over time, their style and even genre changing from album to album, whether that be for the better or perhaps occasionally for worse. So for this video, I'm going to be going through every single Bloodstained Child album, excluding The Legend from 2018, which is just a bunch of re-recordings of of some older songs. It's not like an original album on its own, so I'm not counting that. But all the other ones I'm going to be looking at, and we're going to give each one a detailed review, and then at the end I'll make a little tier list chart comparing them to find out what I liked about each one, what I maybe didn't like, and then I'll see which one is my favourite. Without further ado, we'll just go ahead and start with their debut album. The first album from Bloodstained Child, Silence of Northern Hell, sounds a hell of a lot different from pretty much anything they would go on to make after this. And I think it's a really interesting project in their discography. This is a really great album with some incredibly solid songwriting and some amazing performances. I think the biggest thing holding this album back from achieving an even higher rating than what I've decided on is mostly down to the production here. It's not a frequent issue, but from time to time I would hear a moment in the track where I felt like it should have sounded maybe a little smoother or more powerful than it was, and there is a certain synth here as well that feels very poorly aged, or dated if you will. Other than a couple of little flaws though, this is a project full of bangers, and I really enjoyed listening to it despite a few imperfections. My favourite track from this album was definitely Under the Sin of Grief, an absolutely incredible song with a great intro, fast riffing and pounding drums that do a really great job of creating a sense of excitement and energy. There's a cool sounding organ and interesting songwriting all around. Really, everything about this track is just so good. Looking at each track individually for this album, we'll start off with the title track itself, which, while I think the older production here does hold it back a little bit, it has a great energy to it. Really fun, if a little cheesy synths, engaging songwriting, and great structure. Personally, I really enjoyed the progressions of this song, which kept the whole song interesting all the way through, and it's a pretty great start to the album. Even though it's not like a perfect masterpiece of a song or anything, it's still really good. Crimson Symphony is up next, and those symphonic elements here really stood out to me and live up to the title, if you will. It has a really cool and energetic intro, interesting progressions, and a great atmosphere. There are also these flutes used towards the end of the song, which are quite nice and stand out as a really fun moment on this album. The vocals near the end sound especially powerful, and almost animalistic in a way. It's really cool. Although there were a couple of moments here and there where I felt the production could have been a little more impactful, this is an amazing song despite those little imperfections. Next up is Under the Sin of Grief, which I mentioned before, and which has a really nice melodic guitar solo during the intro, which sounded so good to me. Then there's the pounding drums and intensely fast riff, which sound so good together. They also use an organ here, which sounds amazing. This track has really interesting and engaging progressions and switch-ups. I also love how the song builds and changes after the intro. I also wanted to mention an amazing slower moment around halfway through, which then quickly transitions into a really fun, faster paced moment. The songwriting here is just incredible all around, and the guitar solo heard in the second half of the song was especially beautiful. Legend of Dark uses this impact synth, which is very noticeably dated and feels really cheesy because of that. But in a way that I actually found quite charming in a way. It's dated, but it's also I That's like the quirkiness of early 2000s synth. It's kind of silly, but in like retrospect, but it's also like kind of fun, you know. This is a generally really fun track though, with a good energy to it. The riffs are kind of simple, but they work so well. There's this keyboard slash guitar like sort of solo battle around like halfway through the song, which is really cool, and I love the melodies here. The next track is Requiem, which has an intro that builds up a really cool atmosphere that feels very dramatic and impactful, although the transition into the main part of the song could have been a little smoother. It does just feel like slightly off to me. To be honest, this track doesn't generally feel quite as well performed or engaging as the other tracks on this album. It's still a good amount of fun to listen to though, and I just had a few small criticisms for it, you know? The keyboard and guitar solos in the second half are really cool, and there are some really nice symphonic elements towards the end. Overall, I'd say this is a great track, despite a couple of things that maybe could have been a bit better. King of Sacred Sword has a really cool dramatic symphonic intro that creates a great atmosphere. The energy feels incredible when the song really kicks off. There's a slower guitar riff around 1 minute and 40 seconds, which feels incredibly impactful. It really sounds great. The songwriting here is also just very interesting and engaging all around, and the bells sound really nice in the second half of this track. My only criticism here is that I think the symphonic elements at around halfway through the song feel like they should have been a little more impactful than they were, but it's a pretty minor complaint really. Then we finish this album with Infernal World, which brings back that one really dated synth from Legend of Dark. The riffs here sound really cool. There are some nice melodic guitar moments in the first half of this track especially. The progression of the track is really good, and it sounds very dramatic, and the songwriting is very engaging. It's just generally very fun, and it's a song that serves as a very good fitting end to this project as a whole. My least favourite track here was Requiem, which still is a great track to be honest, as I said before, but it's just a little weaker than the others here if you ask me. It has some really cool moments and is still fun to listen to, but there was room for improvement, I guess. Overall, this is a great debut album, although it doesn't really serve as a good introduction for the band, since if you were hoping for more of this style of music, you would definitely be disappointed if you heard their later albums. Either way, the songwriting is great, the performances are generally very good, and while there were a couple of little problems I had with the production, I don't think it ruins the album by any means. It's just a lot of really cool stuff here. Personally, I'd give this album a 9 out of 10. A good improvement over their first album, Bloodstained Child's second project, Mystic Your Heart, shows the band moving closer to the territory of trance metal they'd later fully embrace. But for now, it still kind of holds back on the synth elements a little. The songwriting here is generally incredible, and most of the performances sound amazing to me. Those synths I just mentioned sound really great, and I just really enjoyed listening to this whole album. I don't think it's perfect, I had a couple of criticisms for it, but it's still amazing as it is, and I especially love how much energy it brings to the table. My favourite track here was probably The Rise of All the Fool, which is an absolute banger from beginning to end with a really good energy to it, a powerful sound, really cool switch-ups and progressions. Honestly, this song just has it all, just amazing in general. Other highlights for me were the title track and Artificial Mind. Both were amazing 10 out of 10 tracks right alongside my favourite. So, how did I feel about each of the different songs on this album? Well, we start with Be In For Killing Yourself, which is a title I guess. This track does have a little issue with the production, where the intro specifically felt a little underwhelming to me personally, but once the track gets going, the energy feels really great. Vocals on this track and on the album in general sound honestly significantly better compared to their first project, and while I did like that as well, The more futuristic synths used here sound really cool. The guitar here sounds very powerful, and there's a really nice guitar solo in the second half of this song. I also wanted to mention how relentless the drums feel towards the intro here. They sound really cool during that section. Infinity System is the next track, and it has an intro that feels really energetic and impactful. The synth during that part sounds especially cool. This song is pretty short and simple, but so much fun to listen to. It has a good progression, and the brief switch ups in the second half are really fun and interesting. Then we have the third track, The Rise of All the Fall, the one I mentioned before as being my favourite on this album, which has a really good energy. The powerful guitar and drums contrast the slower, more delicate synth really nicely. There's a really cool switch up with a sort of icy sounding synth towards the middle of the song, which sounds amazing. The songwriting is interesting and engaging. The guitar solo in the second half sounds amazing. It's just a really intense and powerful song and really fun. The title track has these cool panning drums in the intro that really stood out to me. The riff during that section is really good as well. I also really like the melodies on this song, and I think it does a good job of standing out from the rest of the tracks here. The vibe during the intro of Artificial Mind is interesting and different compared to the rest of the album. The instrumental here is chaotic and engaging. I really like it. I also love the synths and piano used during the intro of this song especially. The fast guitar riffs sound great, and I just love it every time the piano and synths show up in this track. It's so good. Then we have EM Solution, which transitions seamlessly from the previous track. I honestly didn't even notice it was a new song at first. This song has a really cool intro riff and drum combination. While the transition into the main part of the song could have been a little smoother, the rest of the song sounds great. The icy synth here sounds nice. I really like that sort of vibe it brings to the track. The piano break is amazing. I love the melodic elements here. This track isn't the most engaging song on the album, but it still sounds so great. Clone Life has a really cool guitar melody during the intro. The synth on this track sounds great. It has a good amount of energy, good progressions, and the pure energy here makes this song so much fun. It's a great track to headbang to. The Road to Ruin has a really cool sounding synth focus intro, if you will. The songwriting feels engaging. The contrast between the guitar, vocals, and drum with the synth is just great. There's a solo battle in the second half that sounds really cool. The piano here also sounds amazing, especially towards the end of the track, and the switch-ups here are really good. Then we finish the album with Deep Silent Memory, and while I think the production of the intro could have been a little more impactful, the songwriting itself is still great. I also think that it has some really nice sounding synths as well, and a good progression, an interesting switch up. It's a really good song, despite some little thing with the production I felt could have been better. My least favourite song from this project was probably either EM Solution or Deep Silent Memory, mostly because of a couple of brief moments where the production could have been a little more impactful, or transition between sections of the song could have been a little smoother. But otherwise, these were also amazing songs, to be honest. I just really had just like minor nitpicks for them, really. Overall, this is a fantastic project and begins to solidify the band's style, and I just love listening to it. The energy found in this album could keep me headbanging and vibing for hours. It's just such a fun listening experience. I gave this album a 9.3 out of 10. Idolator is an absolutely fantastic listening experience which brings so much energy and power to the table that I was just having an absolute blast from beginning to end. I loved every single second of this project and I had no complaints about it whatsoever. It's just that good. My favourite track from this album is a hard choice because every track here is incredible, but if I had to narrow it down to a list of possible choices, I would say it's between Nuclear Trance, Embrace Me, Hypersonic, and Live Inside. All of these songs are just so amazing. I adore all of them and had so much fun listening to them. Great songwriting, great performances, great production, everything here comes together to make for the perfect trance metal album. Looking at this release track by track, we begin with Hypersonic, which has a really cool atmospheric intro. Something I noticed in this song, but also the album in general, was the increased usage of electronic elements compared to their previous albums. The guitar tone on this track is great. It has a good energy, the melodic chorus is fun, the songwriting is engaging, the progression of the track is fantastic, and I was just constantly headbanging while listening to this song. It was incredible. The second track, Live Inside, has a really cool riff during the intro that feels instantly engaging and interesting. There's a cool electronic instrumental break around halfway through the track. The song structure in general is just great, and the energy here is incredible. Then we have Embrace Me with its beautiful melodic intro. I love when the drums and guitars kick in. It sounds fantastic. I mean, wow, what a good start to the song. The guitar tone here sounds especially cool. The melodies are amazing, the songwriting and structure here are just wonderful. The whole song just feels very engaging. Final Sky has a really cool, energetic opening riff, and the drums here sound especially good. Honestly, this song is just incredible all around, and so much fun to listen to it. And it also has a really cool ending riff. Next is Truth, which stood out to me for its fun electronic instrumental intro that goes into an explosive opening with especially great drums and guitar. Speaking of, the guitar here sounds sort of menacing and intense. It's really cool. The chorus is fun and energetic. I love the switch ups and the transitions here. The drums are fantastic, and the guitar solo near the end sounds so good. The song Trial Spiral has a great energy to it right out of the gate, with a really cool melodic guitar moment during the intro. This track just has a great vibe all around. It's really fun to listen to. The synths sound great here, and it has an amazing song structure. Void has some really cool synths during the intro. The initial guitar riff is very heavy, and it has a generally cool vibe. The track is engaging and fun, and the piano at around 3 minutes is really good. There's also a great scream right at the end that I wanted to mention. Nuclear Trance is a fantastic song with cool strings and choir-like vocals during the intro that really make the song stand out. And the intro is just really impactful. The opening electronic beat here is really powerful and really interesting. I love how the song slowly progresses over time. And I also want to say that the atmosphere on this track is excellent. I also really enjoyed the female vocals on this track, and I love the sort of glitchy effects you can hear in the background. AG2O has a really cool atmospheric intro with a great guitar tone that stands out from the rest of the album. There was also some interesting drumming, which at first felt a little strangely timed, but it really works when the song fully kicks in. There's a moment where it's at first I was thinking I don't know about this drumming. Is it really working? And then this whole song just kicked in, and it was oh, I see what they were going for now. That's really good. There was also a really cool instrumental moment with the synth and guitar that sort of contrast in a really cool way. There's a fun intro beat on the song Type N, which generally has a good energy. The first guitar riff on that track feels punchy and intense, and the backing vocals here sound really interesting. The synths are fantastic as always, and there's a good back and forth between the sort of loud and melodic section towards the end that I liked a lot. The next track is called Life Story, which has a really nice synth intro with a great melody. I found the songwriting to be very engaging and interesting. There were some great switch ups, and the track is just generally really fun. I also really liked the guitar solo in the second half of this track. Then the album concludes with True Blue, a cover of a song by Luna Sea. Now, I'm not personally familiar with the original, but as an outsider experiencing this without context, I think it sounds amazing. It has a great energy, the synth in the background sounds really nice, the guitar solo here was incredible, the drumming is great, and it's just a really fun closing track for this project. This album is an absolute banger. No critiques, no complaints, perfection. 10 out of 10. An absolutely fantastic album which fully embraces trance metal as its main genre. Mosaic is nothing but bangers. Incredible melodies, riffs, vocals, and choruses from start to finish. Honestly, I just loved every second of it. This album knows how to have fun, and there wasn't a moment where I wasn't having an absolute blast listening to it. My favourite song from this project was definitely Metro Police, but they're all incredible really. The catchy chorus, fantastic songwriting and structure, great clean vocals and beautiful ending. Metro Police is just so good. If I had to mention a couple of other massive highlights here, I definitely include Freedom, Energy Blast, CE0079 and Innocence. All incredible tracks. The opening track here, Exotic 6 Coordinator, has a great energy. The guitar sounds really good, and it has some really cool, harsh vocals. And really just the vibe is really fun. Then we have Cyber Green with its great intense intro, simple but effective riffs, and really engaging drumming. Freedom is one of the big songs from this album, and it's not hard to see why. I love the clean backing vocals here, the effects on them just sound so cool. The futuristic vibe of this track is really fun, the song structure is great, it's very engaging, the chorus is fantastic and so catchy, the synths sound really good, and there was a moment around halfway with a really beautiful instrumental break that includes some amazing piano. Energy Blast is an all-around really solid track. The synths sound cool, the songwriting is very good, it's energetic and fun, which definitely fits the title, you know. Next up is Pitch Black Room, which has a really cool intro riff. The songwriting here has a fun sort of loose feel to it. There's a really fun instrumental break around a minute in, and a really smooth guitar solo at around 2 minutes 48 that I really enjoyed. Then we have Another Dimension. I think this song has a nice synth melody during the intro, a good amount of energy. There's a really nice piano moment, but just before the 2 minute mark, and the guitar solo here is absolutely fantastic. Metro Police, which I already mentioned before as being my favourite track, is absolutely incredible. I did mention a couple things I liked about it just a minute ago, but I'm going to go into a little more detail now. The opening synth melody here is really beautiful. This song has a very catchy chorus, fantastic songwriting and structure, great clean vocals, the song flow is amazing, and the ending is beautiful. It really feels satisfying to listen to. Honestly, it's just an incredible song all around. Then there's CE0079, a song I felt was noteworthy for its cool build-up during the intro and how cool the opening guitar riff sounds. The fuzz on the guitar here sounds intense and really fun, and it also stands out a lot from the rest of the album because of that interesting sound. The choppy vocal effects used here are cool, the drum sounds powerful and fun. There's a really amazing guitar solo. I love the way that the guitar builds towards the end especially, and the song structure here is just so good. I love the opening piano of Innocence. Combined with the intense guitar and drums, it makes for a great contrast. The spoken vocals might be a little cheesy, but in a really fun way, so it doesn't detract from my enjoyment at all. The piano is also just really beautiful all the way throughout this song, honestly, and the drum patterns here are a lot of fun. Peacemaker has a fun, energetic opening riff, and the screams sound especially good on this track. Neo-Gothic Romance has a fun, vibey intro, a slightly slower pacing, which feels really nice. It's a good change of pace compared to how fast and intense the rest of the album has been so far. I also love the great use of contrasting vocals during the chorus, and there's a good increase in energy towards the end. The album ends with the track Easy Do Dance, which is pure cheesy fun. The effects used on the backing vocals are cool, the synth melody is good. It actually kind of reminds me a little of Mortal Kombat. Not sure if that's just me, but that's something I wanted to mention. The chorus is cool, the energy here is great, and it's a really fun ending for the album. Overall, this is a fantastic listening experience from start to finish with no dips in quality or anything for me to complain about. It's just trance metal perfection, and I absolutely loved my time listening to it. Incredible all around. This is some of the best music I've heard from the genre. Bloodstained Child can do some really amazing stuff when they put their minds to it. This album gets another 10 out of 10. Epsilon is a true masterpiece that blends all of the elements of trance and metal together so perfectly to create an absolute blast of a listening experience with so many songs that I'll never be able to get out of my head. There's not a single moment in the runtime of this album where I wasn't having a great time listening to it. This project has great riffs, amazing choruses, and great implementation of synths. My absolute favourite track here is such a difficult choice, actually. I want to say it's probably between Forever Free or Stargazer, but it's really hard to choose because all of the songs on this album are just incredible, and it's any of them could really take the top spot. It would depend on how I feel that day, It could change at any moment, We begin the album with Sirius 6, an absolutely excellent start to the album. The intro makes a great first impression with a lot of energy. The female vocals on this track, as well as on the whole album, are absolutely fantastic. It has really catchy melodies, powerful guitar and drums, incredible songwriting, an amazingly catchy chorus, really nice piano sections, and the harsh vocals are the best they've been so far in the entire band's discography, if you ask me. Same goes for the rest of the tracks here. Forever Free was, as I just said, one of my favorites from this project. It has a really nice electronic intro, the synths sound great, the riffs are impactful and fun, there's a good amount of energy to them, the clean vocals are absolutely beautiful, and I adore the chorus here. I also wanted to mention the cool addition of strings in the background on this track. It's a really nice little detail that adds so much to the song. Then there's Stargazer, which has an incredible opening with a fantastic guitar part and great synths. This song feels energetic and fun all the way through. The chorus is incredible, the vibes are great, it's very catchy, and it has especially fun lyrical content in my opinion. Sophia is the next track, and I love this beautiful melodic intro, which is then followed by a really powerful and impactful opening guitar part. The energy is great, vocals continue to be amazing, it has another fantastic catchy chorus, and some really beautiful strings. Next is Unlimited Alchemist, a track with an incredible energetic intro, really fun clean vocals, drums that feel especially great here, and an exhilarating speed to it. It's such a fun song. On the track Electricity, the intro wastes no time at all, it just blasts into full speed right away, and it's fantastic. The chorus here is amazing, and I love how catchy it is. The guitar and drums feel punchy and powerful, and it has an amazing song structure. So good. Eternal has a cool atmospheric intro with nice synths and piano. There's a great build up to the introduction of the guitar. There's a good amount of energy to this track. This track it has another banger chorus and just great songwriting all around. The next song is Moonlight Wave, and it has a really cool guitar riff which plays throughout the track. The melodies here are very catchy, it's just a very fun and energetic song in general. Dedicated to Violator has a really fun vibe, and it feels a little less aggressive than the rest of this album. Instead, it feels quite upbeat and a little light-hearted even. It's a nice change of pace. There's some really cool guitar playing at around 1 minute 50 seconds, which I wanted to point out, and the piano on this track sounds especially beautiful. The guitar tone on Merry Go Round sounds great. I also really like how the intro for this track is structured. The contrast between the quiet and loud sections here is beautiful, and the female vocals are wonderful as expected on this project. LA Plus has a great energy to it right off the bat. The punchy guitar matches well with the smooth female vocals. The usage of strings here is great, and there are some really cool glitchy synth noises I heard here that I like a lot. The closing track on this album is Psychono, which stood out to me for its beautiful melodic opening with acoustic guitar and really cool sort of subdued drums. The clean vocals during the intro are really relaxing and enjoyable to listen to. This song has great melodies. It feels emotionally impactful, it has wonderful implementation of spoken word moments, and it's just the perfect ending for this album. I will never get tired of this album, and how much fun it is. I could listen to it over and over and over again and just never get bored. It's a masterpiece, and I love every second of it. Definitely, it's just a amazing album. It has to be a 10 out of 10. Amateris is an absolute blast to listen to, an album which was consistently fun from beginning to end with only a few minor dips in quality in my opinion. I think the songs here are fantastic, and while this isn't my favourite project from the band, it's still genuinely amazing. My favourite song from this album was probably either New Space Order, Del Sol 1.02, or Square Root of BSC. Fun energies, great guitar, great drums, incredibly enjoyable vocals, beautiful synth moments. These tracks have it all. One of the tracks I just mentioned, New Space Order, is the opening track for this album. The intro here is cool, impactful, and intense with some incredible guitar and synths. The drumming feels great on this track. There are some really nice synths during the chorus, the vocals feel appropriately aggressive, and the melodic moments are really fun to listen to. The track has a great speed and energy. It's just so much fun to listen to. Del Sol 1.02 is another one of the tracks I mentioned as contenders for being the best song on the album. It's the second track on the album, and it has this sort of dark melodic intro with some really nice strings and piano, which really sets the atmosphere well and stood out to me. Once the track fully gets going, it has a great energy. The guitar and drums feel impactful, the synth melodies are really fun, and the songwriting is very engaging. The song Earth has a good energy, fun chorus, and interesting usage of strings. There's a chiptune-ish synth on this track, which sounds great, and the melodies and vocals here sound really fun as well. When it comes to Eastern Gravity, I felt that the transition into the chorus here could have been a little more impactful, but other than that, it has a really fun energy, impactful guitar, and there's just a really cool, this really cool synth in the background of the chorus, which I liked a lot. Square Root of BSC has a great energy, impactful intro. The opening riff is simple but effective, and it has these fun, jumpy vocals I liked a lot. Then there's the song Love Impulse, which has these really heavy and engaging verses. Then it goes to fun and catchy choruses, and it's a good amount of energy to it, and it definitely stands out from the rest of this album. The next track here is called Luminous Inferno. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Inferno or if they misspelt Inferno, but whatever. It is another fun and energetic song. It's generally a really great track. It's very engaging and a blast to listen to. I also wanted to mention the really cool guitar solo around halfway through the song. 8-Bit Black Hole has some almost sort of gent-like guitar, which sounds really cool. The synth used here sounds very chiptune, which helps it stand out from the other tracks. And there's a really cool little sort of 8-bit breakdown section around halfway through, which is a lot of fun. There is a beautiful synth intro for the track Lost Humanity. The transition into the main part of the song from the intro could have been a little more impactful, but it's still really fun, and the chorus is quite catchy. There's an icy synth used throughout the track, which I liked a lot, and there's this sort of trance section near the end, which feels like a really fun switch up, and I especially love the kick during that part. The next song is called 3 plus 6 plus 9, and it's generally really fun to listen to. Personally, I felt the electronic instrumental section on this track felt a little too short, and it could have been like built up a little more, and they could have like done more with that. But you know, it's still cool. It does have a good opening riff, and as I said, it's just a really fun track. I just felt like I wanted a little more of that instrumental part I just mentioned, you know? Sumeragi has a great, energetic EDM-like intro, some really cool synth melodies, intense guitar and drums, and a fun chorus. I also wanted to mention specifically a really cool guitar solo around halfway through, and a moment with a cool like robotic voice effect. You can hear like about 3 minutes 39. This whole track just has a great vibes though. Then we finally end the album with a cover of the song known for being one of the themes to the anime Dragon Ball, which I really need to get around to watching actually. I started the original series, but I haven't gotten to like Z or any of the newer stuff. I need to get around to that. Anyway, this cover is energetic and fun. It's just a really good time and very enjoyable to listen to. I felt a couple of the vocal deliveries here could have been done a little bit better, but other than that, I really liked this ending track. That last track was definitely my least favourite of the bunch, although I still think it was good. And I just had so much fun listening to this album, and while I had a couple of nitpicks, that's all they really were at the end of the day, you know, just nitpicks. And even my least favourite song from this release was an 8 out of 10, so I'd say this album is a really solid, strong listening experience with a lot of great stuff to offer. I just really enjoyed this one a lot, and it's just pretty great, you know. It's just good trance metal, and some of like the best stuff I've heard from the genre, even though it's not the best, you know, album from this band specifically. Like, oof, so good. I'd give this album a 9.5 out of 10. I feel like I've made it pretty clear why I love this band so much. I mean, I've been giving out a lot of high scores here and absolutely just gushing about the music from each of these projects. It would be a while before we got a new project from the band, but finally in 2024 we would get not one, but 2 new Bloodstained Child albums. I was so excited while waiting for these projects to be released, man. I couldn't wait to hear what the band had come up with this time. I remember like it was yesterday, you know, I sat down, ready to listen to what I was sure would be another banger, and I clicked play on the first song. And I was left absolutely speechless when the first song on the album, Siberia, started playing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was just awful. The first song ended, and then I listened to the rest of the album, and by the end of it, I almost couldn't fathom how the band had released something this bad. That's not to say that everything about this album is bad. There are at least some redeeming qualities about it. There were 2 tracks on this album that I actually enjoyed, those being the songs 24 Hour Party and Cyber Shotgun. Although I wouldn't say either of these songs are great or even really that good. I say I need to call them like decent, like sort of like 6 out of 10 territory. I'd also like to mention the songs Tonight Delight and Origami actually have decent choruses. I might have actually liked these tracks as well if it weren't for the awkward verses and, well, everything other than the choruses. The first song on this album is Unreal World, and it's unreal how bad it is. The intro itself is actually a little intriguing, but it's immediately followed by an incredibly underwhelming opening section for the most part. Immediately after that opening part, the entire song basically just falls apart. The male vocals are awkward, the drum beat feels off, the female vocals sound nice, but it's not enough to save this track. The songwriting here just feels all over the place, and it isn't impactful or engaging in the slightest. There's an instrumental break around halfway through which sounds alright, but it's not great or anything. The song structure doesn't feel like it flows naturally, and the production feels very underwhelming. Personally, I would say it sort of lacks punch. Next is 24-Hour Party, which is one of the best moments on this album, but it's still not very good, as I mentioned just a minute ago. The melodic opening here is quite nice, the opening riff sounds cool, but the songwriting feels disjointed. Although the energy is decent enough, the vocals do feel better here than on the first track, but not amazing by any means. I felt like the drums here got quite repetitive after a while, and while this song as a whole is okay, it's nothing special. Tonight Delight is the third song, and while the intro shows a little potential, the harsh vocals here clash with it in a very unpleasant way, and the entire track falls apart shortly after. The spoken word vocals on this track basically just ruin the whole thing. Performances here feel dull and poorly put together. It's just a boring and annoying song in general, really. The guitar solo in this song feels like it should be cool, but the backing instrumental just feels so bad, and it totally ruins the solo. This song has little to no energy to it, and it feels like it just falls flat on its face. I felt like this song had little to no redeeming qualities. Epic Over, which is that is one of the song titles I've ever seen, has an instrumental at the beginning which feels alright, but as soon as the vocals begin, the whole thing turns to shit. The guitar after the intro feels awkward and poorly played, the guitar solo had no impact on me, and I feel as though I should be able to get into this, but the performances and production are just so bad that any fun I could have had with this track is just completely ruined. The whole song just sucks. Origami surprised me at first with a really beautiful synth during the intro. It actually sounds really good. Unfortunately, as soon as the guitar starts, the whole song falls flat on its face. The instrumental here sounds dull, lifeless, poorly performed, and just terrible. The vocals fail to evoke any emotion, and while the song tries to be sort of big and powerful, it just doesn't land at all. Then there's Cyber Shotgun, which has an interesting intro that tries to be powerful and sort of exciting, but the dull production makes it fall flat. The song feels awkward and unengaging, the guitar solos are actually quite decent, but it also has these bro step elements and influences which sound just awful to me. This track definitely has some redeeming qualities, but there's just so much wrong with it. Next up is Dancing Shikabane, with songwriting that feels all over the place. Nothing really works together, and the whole song is just a mess. The vocals here are also very poorly delivered. This song might actually have one of the worst opening verses I've ever heard in a metal song. Nothing on this track feels like it goes together. It's like there are 5 different songs playing at the same time, and they all suck. This track is unbearably bad. Once that abomination is over, we have Don't Stop Your Life, which isn't offensively bad or anything, it's just kind of boring. It has the same issues as the rest of this album, there's just nothing really that fun or interesting going on here. There are some really bad vocal deliveries, and while there were a couple of decent moments with the guitar and synths, it's nowhere near enough to make up for everything wrong with this track. Finally, we end this album with Stone Circle. It's okay. The synth sounds quite nice, the beginning of the song sounds coherent for a change, so that's good. The production is still underwhelming, the vocals are awkward and not enjoyable to listen to, it's just sort of dull and bland for the most part. At the end of the day, I wouldn't really call it good or bad, it's somewhere in the middle, I just don't really care about it. I'm going to be straightforward and blunt about this. Bloodstained Child are my favourite trance metal band, so to see something this bad from them is kind of depressing. The worst song here is I. I'm not even sure what I could say about the song, it's just truly awful. What a disaster. It sucks to see a band I loved so much end up like this. I did not like this album. 3.8 out of 10. After the absolute train wreck that was Siberia, I had very low expectations going into the second part of this sort of double album experience. And I have to say, it still isn't very good. That being said, however, this is significantly better than Siberia, and I actually somewhat liked the majority of the songs on this project. I enjoyed 8 of the songs on this album, compared to only 2 on the previous part of this double release, which is a dramatic improvement in terms of like to dislike. Almost every song I enjoyed was a 6 out of 10, with the only 2 exceptions being track 3, Wild Horizon, and track 5, Australia, which I would have given 7s to. None of these songs are great. None of them are really bad either. They're all just kind of decent or okay, if you ask me. The dramatic intro on the first track, Quintessa, feels a little like generic movie trailer music, but it's alright. The production here is still underwhelming as it was in Siberia. The female vocals are okay, but the male vocals sound quite awkward at times. The chorus isn't great, but it's kind of fun, and I feel like with better production and male vocals, this could have been a lot better. The energy does pick up a little in the second half of the song, which is fun, but overall the song is just okay. Next is Omniverse. The opening instrumental is pretty cool and energetic in terms of songwriting, but the production lets it down. The male vocals are pretty good, aside from the spoken word stuff. The chorus is pretty fun, and the brief instrumental break towards the end does sound nice. Then we have Wild Horizon, with a melodic opening riff that sounds pretty cool. The guitar and drums here still feel a little underwhelming because of the production, but they're not bad songwriting-wise. It does have decent vibes and quite nice songwriting despite its issues. Morning Star has a fun opening riff and sounds pretty cool actually. The different elements here actually sound pretty good together, and while the song isn't incredible or anything, it's actually pretty solid. My only real issue with this song is that the vocals during the chorus feel a little awkward and kind of let the rest of the song down a little. The production on Estrella makes the intro feel a little underwhelming when I think it could have been really powerful. The chorus does sound pretty good though, and songwriting wise it's decent. The guitar solo is also pretty good. Devil's Twilight is up next, and the dramatic intro here is pretty cool. The instrumental does carry the song here a little, but the vocals really weren't working for me, to be honest. I feel like this track could have been really good, but I just don't vibe with the clean vocals at all. They totally ruin the whole feel of the song. The beginning of Night Sky sounds pretty cool, although the chorus here is a little awkward and kind of feels out of place on this song. It definitely could have been delivered better. The songwriting on Moonfall isn't bad at all, but the production hinders it like a lot of the other songs here. It's decently enjoyable, although the lyrics do feel a bit awkward at times. Then there's Digital Forest, which has some really bad male vocals, and an unimpactful instrumental which is clearly like trying to be impactful and emotional, but falls completely flat. Back to the Planet has awkward vocals, and it's another song clearly trying and failing to be big and dramatic. It should be impactful, but for a variety of different reasons it just doesn't work. I will say that the guitar solo near the end was actually pretty good though. And that's the entire project. Overall, this is a very okay album for the most part. I can sit back and get some enjoyment from most of these songs, although there are a couple here that I'd rather just never listen to again if I'm being honest. In conclusion, it's better than Siberia, but that's not saying a whole lot. I gave this album a 5.9 out of 10. So, we end the reviews at a pretty low point, which is a shame, but I don't want to let that distract from the fact that I do genuinely love a lot of this band's music. I don't know what happened to them during the making of Siberia and Metalia, but hopefully whatever the next album is will be a lot better than those two at least. So here are the albums on a tier list style chart for anyone who's interested. Okay, there it is. Oh boy, that certainly is a chart. Very cool. And that's basically all I had to say here. Bloodstained Child are a fantastic band with so many bangers, although their newest albums were really bad. If for some reason you've watched this whole video and you're not already a fan of the band and haven't heard their music before, I don't know why you would watch this, but hey, maybe. I would definitely suggest you at least check out Epsilon. That is a masterpiece of an album. And if you enjoyed this video, you can check out my other ones, which were about Taylor Swift and the thrash metal band Sacrifice. They're both entirely, completely different to this, but I put a lot of effort into those videos, so give them a watch if you're interested. I have another YouTube channel where I post my own music that I make myself, which is also available on streaming services like Spotify and YouTube Music. If you really want to find some more reviews by me, then I have an Album of the Year profile where I post written reviews, but I don't go as much detail there as I do in the videos. But there's still a lot of reviews to read if you're interested, including written reviews for all of the albums discussed in this video. Now that I'm done relentlessly advertising to you, the video is over. Bye.